Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Jai Gaura Hari Bo. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Jai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Jai Shri Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Tisheye Namaha Nityanandam Namastubhyam Prema Ananda Pradayane Kalo Kalamashanashaya Janava Pataye Namah Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Sahodito Gaudaudaye Pushpavanto Chitro Shamdo Tamonudo Ajanulambita Bujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanaika Pitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambaro Dvijavaro Yugadana Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostu Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasyacha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Pranams of my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Gurudev Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Astatarasata Sri Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. Turn it a little bit louder, slight. Then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudevs Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Astatarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj and Nitya Leela Pravishta Paramahansa. I offer my Dandavat Pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Sri Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga, and I offer my Dandavat Pranams to all of the Vaishnavas and to all of the Vaishnavis. So we're now going to continue and complete our reading of Srila Sachidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur Bhakti Viveka, a complete analysis, careful analysis of Bhakti Tattva. What is Bhakti? and this very essential book that this for every single Gaudiya, Vaishnava, Sangha, society, institution, all throughout the whole world, Indian, Western, this book should be prescribed reading. Because if someone understands properly what bhakti is, what is the tattva of bhakti, then only can they really be properly doing bhakti. Because they will know what is bhakti and what is not bhakti. And then they will strive toward pure bhakti. But if they don't know that what they're doing is not really bhakti, but it's only a semblance of bhakti, or it's a reflection of bhakti, or so many different permutations of bhakti, they will not be able to advance properly. It is essential to know this. And that is why in our Gurudev's worldwide preaching, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj always had the verse quoted by Rupa Goswami, the definition of. He put that in the very beginning of his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So that now that you are going to embark on a study of the subject matter of Bhakti Rasa, because the title of the book is what? Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu. The transcendental ocean of the nectar of Bhakti Rasa. Krishna Bhakti Rasa. Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavitamati. So, the consciousness of service to Krishna is based upon the development of bhakti. And bhakti ultimately means what? It means Uttama Bhakti. And what does Uttama Bhakti mean? It means pure Bhakti. Untinged by anything else. Only for the satisfaction of Krishna. Krishna Anushilanam. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. So, we have now completed this, almost completed the reading of this book. Now, here is the final, in the last chapter, the 4th chapter. Now, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wants to summarize and he wants to complete his presentation. Oh, I'm on the wrong book. Okay. So this chapter 4 is titled An Analysis of the Qualification for Bhakti. Yeah. So I'm just reading the last paragraph before we will continue what we read in the last class. So Thakur has quoted from So there is another consideration here. Sadhana bhakti is of two types, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and Raganuga sadhana bhakti, as confirmed in this verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Vaidhi Raganuga Cheti Sadvidha Sadhana Vidha. Vaidhi Raganuga Cheti Sadvidha Sadvidha. Because, why? Why is it essential to understand the difference between Vaidhi Bhakti, Sadhana Bhakti, and Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti? Because without this understanding, there may remain many suspicions that can harm the development of one's bhakti. So, concerning Vaidhi Bhakti, Srila Rupa Goswami has written, Yatra rag anavaptatvat pravrittir upajayate shashane naiva shastrasya sa vaidhi bhaktir uchate. This is definition of the Vaidhi Bhakti. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that bhakti is the living entity's natural inclination. It is the natural inclination of every living entity, is bhakti. And it is the inseparable occupation of his intrinsic nature. So it's his nature, it's his natural inclination, and it's also his occupation, which is inseparable from his intrinsic nature. Now, in the conditioned stage, the jiva is opposed to Bhagavan and becomes attached to the worldly enjoyment that is presented by the illusory energy. Becomes attached to worldly enjoyment presented by the illusory energy, and he becomes opposed to Bhagavan. Now, as the living entity becomes immersed in worldly pleasure, his natural inclination to render loving devotional service unto Krishna, it becomes dormant. The jiva is fully satisfied only when, by some good fortune, his intrinsic rag, or his strong loving attachment for Krishna, reawakens. However it may happen, however it may actually take place, but yes, the jiva will only become fully satisfied when by some good fortune his intrinsic rag, his strong loving attachment for Krishna, reawakens, in however way that it may happen. So when prem appears, turn it a little louder, when prem appears, then rag naturally appears along it. When prem appears alongside prem. But this is distorted rag, not pure rag. It's distorted. Now in that stage, the inborn rag of the living entity remains covered or dormant. Awaken this rag. The acceptance of spiritual instruction is essential. The Vedas and their subordinate literatures, they are stored within the framework of the instructions of the scriptures, is called what kind of bhakti? Vaidhi Bhakti. What did it just say? What is just stated right now? That the bhakti that
use Shastra and these rules and Vaidhi Bhakti.
then it's Vaidhi Bhakti. That is not how it's stated, that when you use it. No.
Also you have fear.
What? But that's separate. That right now, only it's saying that the bhakti that is performed within the framework of the instructions of the scriptures, that is called Vaidhi Bhakti. In other words, the framework means you're performing your bhakti based upon the statements of the Shastras. A type of bhakti is called Vaidhi. Vaidhi also comes from the word Vidhi, which means regulations. Vidhi. So now, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to complete review of Raganuga Bhakti. That's what I'm going to do now. After having told everything about Bhakti in these 4 chapters, now I'm going to give a brief review of Raganuga Bhakti. So, Srila Jiva Goswami, he writes in his Bhakti Sandarbha, he writes the following statement in Sanskrit. Tatra vishayina swabhaviki vishaya samsarage chati shaya maya prema raga yata chakshur adinam sundaryado tadrisha evatra bhaktasya Shri Bhagavati api raga iti uchyate. The meaning of this statement is a materialistic person, by his affiliation with the objects of sense pleasure, that is called raga. Does not everyone in the material world experience that? A powerful loving affection that develops within a materialistic person when he's associating with the objects of sense pleasure. So that's called raga. Now, just as our eyes become excited upon seeing any beautiful form, the simple inclination of a devotee towards Krishna, that is raga. Both come under the heading of raga. From following in the footsteps of a personality who possesses natural affinity for such raga is called rag anuga bhakti. So now, regarding the qualification for rag anuga bhakti, Srila Rupa Goswami Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-2 Vrajavasi Janadaya Tesham Bhavaptaye Lubdho Bhaved Atradikaravan Tat Tad Bhavadi Madhurye Shrute Diryad Apekshate Natra Shastram Nayuktim Cha Talobotpati Lakshanam. So now he's going to tell about lopa, greed. Now, the Vrajavasis, personal example of what? Rag Atmika Bhakti. Such sentiments cannot be seen anywhere other than in Braj. Nowhere else. You'll not find it anywhere in the whole creation. Only in Braj. In the hearts of who? The Brajvasis. Now the fortunate soul who develops the greed to attain sentiments for Krishna, such as those displayed by the Vrajavasis. So a soul who becomes fortunate, Vasis, that soul is the rightful candidate for rag anuga bhakti. What is that? He has greed to attain the sentiments for Krishna, such as those displayed by the Vrajavasis. So despite having heard about the sweetness of such sentiments, one cannot enter into them until he becomes greedy for them. Okay? We can hear about it all we want. But even despite having heard about the sweetness of these sentiments, one cannot enter into them until he becomes greedy for them. Cause, the soul means the only greed, not the careful study of scriptures or the skillful use of logic. That's all. These are the definition verses of Raganuga Bhakti and who is qualifications for it. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that thus we understand that just as faith is the only cause of the qualification for Vaidhi Bhakti, faith, Shraddha, similarly, greed is the only cause of the qualification for Raganuga Bhakti. That's a good sentence. What did he say? I can't hear you. About what? Raganuga Bhakti. But what did he just say about Raganuga Bhakti? Huh? So, thus we understand that faith is the only cause of the qualification for Vaidhi Bhakti. Who becomes qualified to begin to practice the rules and regulations of living your life as a devotee in Vaidhi Bhakti? Only the one who has Shraddha. Only one who has some faith. So just as we understand that Shraddha, faith, is the only cause of the qualification for Vaidhi Bhakti, in the same way, similarly, the greed is the only cause of the qualification for what? Rag Anuga Bhakti. Now here a doubt may arise concerning whether the faith that has been previously established as the cause for the eligibility for unalloyed devotion is incomplete. So a doubt is arising concerning whether the faith that has been previously established as the cause for the eligibility for unalloyed devotion is in that Vaidhi Bhakti is the cause of another type of bhakti, Raganuga Bhakti. Greed is the only qualification. So a doubt may arise, well, I'm practicing Vaidhi Bhakti. That means I also have Shraddha, I have faith. Is there some kind of incompleteness to this eligibility for pure devotional service, unalloyed devotion? So, he points this out, that this is a doubt that can arise. And he continues to explain it. If that faith is the cause of the eligibility only for one type of bhakti, then why has it been said to be the cause of the eligibility for all types of bhakti? Now, to dispel such a doubt, it is again stressed that faith is the only cause of the qualification for pure devotion. In the absence of faith, no variety of Shuddha Bhakti can ever appear. If there is not Shraddha, no Shuddha Bhakti can ever appear, ever. There must be Shraddha. So the conclusion is that Shastra Vishvasamayi Shraddha, Shastra Vishvasamayi Shraddha, or the Shraddha that is derived from the faith in the injunctions of the scriptures, this is the only cause of the qualification for Vaidhi Bhakti. And Bhav Madhurya Lobhamayi Shraddha, or the faith that is derived from the intense greed to experience the sweet sentiments of the Brajavasis, is the only cause of the qualification for Rag Anuga Bhakti. So did you comprehend this? Did you comprehend this discussion? Well, did you understand what is being explained here? What is the conclusion? That there's two types of faith. The conclusion is that there's two types of Shraddha. One Shraddha gives you the qualification for practicing Vaidhi Bhakti, and the other Shraddha, the other faith, which is derived from what? Bhav Madhurya Lobhamayi Shraddha. That is derived from the intense greed to experience the sweet sentiments of the Bhakti. So someone can say, well, I really want to experience the sweet sentiments of the Brajavasis. That's why I'm always chanting Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. I really want this. But just just because you want this, so just because you say, that you want this, you really want to experience the sweet sentiments of the Brajvasis, and that this is the only cause of the qualification for Rag Anuga Bhakti. But does that mean that you've attained Lobha? Does that just because you have you like to hear about Radha and Krishna, you like to hear about the Brajvasis, does that mean that now you've attained Lobha, you've attained greed? Huh? No. There's a lot of other things that have to go along with this. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is now saying only faith, whether it is Vishvasamayi or Lobhamayi, only faith. It is because of the eligibility for both types of pure bhakti. Now, there are Uttam, Madhyam, and Kanishta, as confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where he says, Uttamo Madhyamascha Syat Kanishtash Chetisa Trita. Now the symptoms of an Uttamakari are what? If you want to be an Uttama Adhikari, if you want to understand who is an Uttama Adhikari, in Vaidhi Bhakti, an Uttama Adhikari in Vaidhi Bhakti, then here's the definition. Shastre yukto cha nipuna sarvata dridha nishchaya praudha shraddho adhikariya sabhaktav uttamo mataha. Quotation of Rupa Goswami. This means one who is conversant. He is very conversant with the scriptures. He is expert in all types of logic, and he possesses unwavering determination. He is an Uttama Adhikari, one endowed with firm faith. Now the symptoms of the Madhyam Adhikari in Vaidhi Bhakti, because he's telling about in Vaidhi Bhakti. So, Yah Shastradishu Anipuna Shraddhavan Sa Tu Madhyama. So, one who is not so expert in understanding the scriptures, but yet he is faithful. He has Shraddha. That person is a Madhyamadhikari. In other words, although presented with difficult arguments, he is unable to answer them. Okay? He's unable to answer. But within his mind, he remains firmly faithful to his own principle. Now comes the symptoms of the Kanishta Adhikari in Vaidhi Bhakti. Yo bhavet komala shraddha sa kanishto nigadyate. Novice devotees, in other words, Kanishta Adhikari devotees, they are novice, they're new. They have very little they have very little expertise in understanding the scriptures. And their faith is very delicate and immature. So their faith, it can be changed by others' logic and by others' arguments. Now, after having quoted these three divisions, so it is to be noted here that the Shraddha visible in these three types of faithful persons, it is characterized by faith in the injunctions of the scriptures and by being mixed with logical evidences that are dependent on the scriptures. So according to the degree of greed possessed by the rightful candidates for Raganuga Bhakti, they can also be divided into the three categories of Uttam, Madhyam, and Kanishta. It's interesting, huh? There's in both types of bhakti, Vaidhi and Raganuga, there are three divisions of faithful persons. So, yes. The conclusion is, every human being has the right to perform bhakti. Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, even Antyajas, that means untouchables, Antyaja, Grihastas, Brahmacharis, Vanaprasthas, Sannyasis, all of them, all, if they have faith. So, either an educated person through the study of the scriptures or an uneducated person through hearing the principles of the scriptures in the association of devotees is said to have developed faith when he realizes the supremacy of bhakti as described in the scriptures. See? So whether he's educated or uneducated, the educated person studies the scriptures. The uneducated person hears the principles of the scriptures in the association of devotees. But both of these are said to have developed faith when they realize the supremacy of bhakti as described in the scriptures. Now, alternatively, if one develops Mayi Shraddha by what? While desiring to follow in the footsteps of the Ragatmika devotees of Braja, then it can be said that he has acquired the qualification to perform Shuddha Bhakti. The qualification for pure devotion cannot be achieved by the processes of impersonal knowledge, renunciation, philosophical analysis, religious discussion, self-control, or meditation. This qualification for Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotion, cannot be achieved by these processes. So, despite receiving initiation into a bona fide disciplic succession, one cannot enter into the previously discussed Uttama Bhakti until he becomes an Uttama Adhikari. I'm reading that again. Despite receiving initiation into a bona fide disciplic succession, one cannot enter into the previously discussed Uttama Bhakti until he becomes an Uttama Adhikari. So until that time, until he becomes an Uttama Bhakti, then one's bhakti can be said to be a semblance of devotion. What is that called in Sanskrit? A semblance of devotion? Bhakti Abhas. Abhas. Until the time that one becomes an Uttama Adhikari, one's bhakti can be said to be a semblance of devotion. So there is a great necessity. Here's, wow, how Bhakti Vinod Thakur is winding it up. He's saying, there is a great necessity to strive stage of Uttama Adhikari. This is possible only devotees. We should never think that one becomes an Uttama Adhikari simply by diligently practicing hearing and chanting and then displaying the symptoms of shedding tears, trembling, dancing. Symptoms can also manifest in Bhakti Abhas. Yeah. They can manifest in Bhakti Abhas. So we should not think that one becomes an Uttama Adhikari simply when practicing hearing and chanting and then displaying these symptoms. Because even a person who is in the stage of Bhakti Abhas, he can also display such symptoms. He can manifest. whatever little softening of the heart, here, softening of the heart, and determination to realize one's inherent identity that are visible in the beginning stages of pure bhakti are far superior to a display of symptoms such as falling unconscious and so on that arise as a result of pursuing the path of bhakti bhas. Again, whatever little softening of the heart and also determination to realize one's inherent identity that are visible in the beginning stages of pure bhakti, these are far superior to a display of symptoms such as falling unconscious and so on that arise as a result of pursuing the path of bhakti abhas. So the path of bhakti abhas is not even the beginning stages of pure bhakti. The beginning stages of pure bhakti are far superior to those display of symptoms that can be that arise as a result of pursuing the path of bhakti abhas. So therefore, to attain unalloyed Shuddha Bhakti, unalloyed devotion, and we should do that with the utmost care. We should make a special effort to pursue the proper method to attain the qualification for bhakti. Otherwise, there is no possibility of attaining the eternal association of Bhagavan. No possibility. We should make effort to pursue the proper method to attain the qualification. So now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur composes his final 6 verses under the name Vishva Vaishnava Das. So Vishva Vaishnava Das puts forward the following verses. And this will be the final paragraph, the explanation of these. Tadha tada bhakto nri matrasyadikarita na sankyam na cha vairagyam na bahu gyata shravanadi vidanena sadhu sangha balena cha anartha pagame shigram shraddha nishtatmika bhavet nishtapi ruchitam prapta shuddha bhaktyadikaritam dadati sadhake nityam esha pratha sanatano asatsango tava bhaktav aparadhe krite sati shraddhapi vilayam yati katam syach shuddha bhaktata ata shraddhavata karyam savadhanam falapyate falaptaye anyata nabhaved bhakti shraddha prema falatmika. Those are the 6 verses. And here's the meaning of those 6 verses. When shraddha that is based either on faith in the injunctions of the scriptures or greed to follow in the footsteps of a ragat, when that shraddha appears in the heart, a person attains the qualifications for pure devotion. The appearance of faith is not caused by renunciation or pursuing of enumeration, strictly adhering to the duties corresponding to one's caste stage of life, or becoming a scholar, the appearance of faith is not caused by any of these. The sole cause of the appearance of faith is the association of a sadhu who has deep love for the narrations of Krishna's pastimes. A sadhu who has deep love for the narrations of Krishna's pastimes, the association with such a sadhu is the sole cause of the appearance of faith. So when faith appears, then one becomes a kanishta adhikari, hearing. And when, by the influence of sadhu sangha, one becomes free from anarthas, and his faith becomes dense, and it transforms into nishta. Intermediate qualification, madhyam adhikar, devotees who are more advanced than oneself. Again, by the further pursuance of the activities of sadhana bhakti, such as hearing, and by the influence of associating with devotees who are more advanced than oneself, one's nishta intensifies, and it assumes the form of ruchi. So how do you get from nishta to ruchi? By further pursuing the activities of sadhana bhakti, such as hearing, and by being in the association and by the influence of this association with devotees who are more advanced than oneself, then one's nishta intensifies and assumes the form of ruchi. This is what Gurudev came for. This is what Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj came to the Western countries and toured for 15 years for this purpose. Of helping those devotees by his association, by helping them to intensify their nishta or to one day reach the stage of nishta, and then by that association, the nishta intensifies and it assumes the form of ruchi. And this is why Srila Gurudev mentioned on many occasions, I am simply praying that all of you can achieve or attain ruchi in this life. And all the devotees are like, and then Gurudev said, but if not, then at least nishta. At least nishta in this life. But his objective was to bring us into ruchi, in the pathway of raga anuga bhakti. That again I'm reading that last sentence. By the further pursuance of the activities of sadhana bhakti, such as hearing, and by the influence of associating with devotees who are more advanced than oneself, then one's nishta intensifies and assumes the form of ruchi. So, the sadhak within whom such ruchi has developed is called an uttam adhikari. Only such an uttam adhikari attains unalloyed devotion. That's already stated previously, what we already read. Only an uttam adhikari can attain shuddha bhakti, unalloyed devotion. So this is the eternal process. This is the eternal process for the attainment of shuddha bhakti. But if during the execution of this gradual process of sadhana, one keeps the bad association of those who are attached to sense pleasure, or those attached to an impersonal conception of the absolute truth, or if one disrespects a pure devotee or commits any other offense to him, faith at the novice level, as well as that at the intermediate level, will dry up from its very root, and the sadhak will be unable to achieve pure bhakti. How much more clear can this get? My God. That should be put on a huge neon sign and displayed everywhere throughout Navadvip Dham. This statement here. I'm reading it one more time. This is the eternal process for the attainment of Shuddha Bhakti. But if during the execution of this gradual process of sadhana keeps the bad association of those who are attached to sense pleasure, or those who are attached to an impersonal conception of the Absolute Truth, or if one disrespects a pure devotee, or he commits any other offense to him, then faith at the novice level, as well as that at the intermediate level, both of them will dry up from its very root, and the sadhak will be unable to achieve pure bhakti. So in such a condition, the sadhak is either entangled in chaya bhakti abhas, or in the case of committing numerous offenses, he even glides down into pratibimba bhakti abhas. Therefore, until one attains the stage of uttama adhikar, the faithful and the sincere sadhak should remain extremely careful. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to achieve pure devotion, which ultimately bears the fruit of divine love. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur ends by saying, Shri Krishna Varga ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi. So any questions or comments? Yeah.
There was three definitions of Uttam, Vajra, for the
Vaida.
but there was none for
Mention. He only says there are also three.
I can't understand. What's a on that, on the level of
For the Vaidhi Bhakti?
for the
On the other category. He didn't go into that here.
I can't understand. I thought you had to attain ruchi just to begin that.
But listen. Just let's remember, we've heard this many times, that one can even attain the stage of bhav in the Vaidhi Bhakti path. Okay? But the bhav that he attains will be different. Yes. The bhav that he attains will be different than the bhav that is attained in the path of Raganuga. So in this particular article, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has not gone deeply into designating, because he actually quoted from Rupa Goswami for those three divisions in the Vaidhi Bhakti path. But he has not, he just said, and similarly, for the Raganuga Bhakti path, there are also three divisions. So, the progression is the same from what I'm understanding, whether in the Vaidhi or in the Raganuga Bhakti path. The progression is the same sequence. The same sequence and the same process. The faith is different, that's all. The faith is different.
But I thought you had to have three just to begin.
No, but to begin, but where are you beginning? something, not full ruchi. You're still beginning in low, like remember how Gurudev told, ruchi also touch even in anartha nivritti stage. By the Vrajrasik Mahabhagavad Vaishnava, and then a devotee very diligently and very carefully pursuing and practicing very strictly sadhan bhajan in the association of more advanced Vaishnava. He said here, has to be in the association of Vaishnavas that are more advanced than oneself. But in terms of coming into the Raga Nuga Bhakti path, there is no other way except by associating with those Vaishnavas who have those moods and those sentiments with their heart. Okay? But in the Vaidhi Bhakti path, one can progress by the association of other Vaidhi Bhaktas who have advanced in the pathway. Yeah, so like in the way that I see this is that Srila Prabhupada came, and of course he introduced bhakti, and he introduced Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, and he didn't talk about Raga Nuga Bhakti, but he did mention the term what is it? Yeah, spontaneous devotional service. And that's mentioned in his summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And it's also stated there, if we read the Nectar Devotion properly, it's also stated there that you have to have the association of such exalted Vaishnavas who have those moods. It's stated there. Especially, of course, if we study the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu directly, verse by verse, with the commentaries of acharyas, it's always emphasized. So if there's no Raga Nuga Bhakta, like there was not any Raga Nuga Bhakta in the very beginning. So Srila Prabhupada was this exalted Mahabhagvat who by his association, the devotees were pulled towards these topics. Prabhupada was giving water to their creepers. He was the cause of their creepers and watering them. He, time, even served Sri Guru with devotion, with dedication, and really tried to apply themselves. But in the absence of his association, some of them, even before he was physically gone from the planet, they fell down. So how is it possible? This is why Gurudev kept on telling that if you're in the association of more exalted Vaishnavas, you can be supported, and you can be prevented from falling by hearing these topics in that association and living according to the strict principles in that association. So weakness, which Gurudev often mentioned, remember how he used to say, don't be weak, don't be weak, So where that weakness is coming, because of anarthas in the heart. They have not yet been destroyed in the heart. Some have, otherwise you could not have taken to the pathway. But now the anarthas are pulling you back again. That's why Gurudev talked about the critical stage. See? So, at some point, even if a devotee does fall away, at some point in this life or in the next life, he will again come onto the pathway by dint of his efforts and be given very high sadhu sangha. This is what Gurudev told. So they may have done what they could in this life, But that gem that was created in the association of the Mahabhagavad Vaishnava and their very surrendered service to him, that never goes away. And that will yield the fruit of very high sadhu sangha in the next life. If they don't commit offenses against another Mahabhagavad Vaishnava. If they do, woe is me. My God, I was just reading in Chaitanya Bhagavat. The very last few chapters of Chaitanya Bhagavat. Mahaprabhu is here, right here, in Kulia. Right here. Mahaprabhu is here. After taking sannyas, then he came. And, you know, there are millions of people coming to see him. I forget the house, the name of Madhavadas, right? I'm not sure, I've never heard that we know exactly where that house was located, but it's right here in this area, because this is Kulia. And after Mahaprabhu was at Vidya Vachaspati's house in Vidyanagar, then he disappeared when all the throngs of people were, lakhs of people were there. And they all thought that he was hiding Mahaprabhu in the house. But then a message finally came from another Brahmana. Oh, he has gone to this house in Kulia. So this is the very place where Mahaprabhu forgave. But then there's, one person who contracted leprosy. It doesn't actually say his name right there. It just says, and then one person who had contracted leprosy came gradually in front of Mahaprabhu, begging for his mercy. And Mahaprabhu said, no, I don't want to see you. I want that you leave. You are a Vaishnava aparadhi. And you think that you're suffering now? Just wait. Do you know how many hells there are that are created by Yamaraj? 84 lakhs of hells. And you will be experiencing those hells because of your Vaishnava aparad. I mean, then that devotee, he's shaking and he's cowering in front of Mahaprabhu and begging. What other recourse do I have, Mahaprabhu? You tell me. You tell me, what must I do? You have offended Srivas Thakur. Only if he forgives you, only can you be relieved. Went to locate Srivas Thakur, fell at his feet. And Srivas Thakur naturally forgave him. It might have been Gopal Chapal, you know, but it didn't mention it right there, who it was. Only then Mahaprabhu forgave him. And I'm telling you, I mean, I'm getting near the end of the whole Chaitanya Bhagavat, and there must have been at least 12 major places all throughout the whole, you know, Adi, Madhya, and Shesha Kandas, where Mahaprabhu gives lecture on this point very severely. You know, and Mahaprabhu also said, even if someone has committed such an offense, but he still continues to perform hearing, chanting, this, that, it's of no value, because Krishna doesn't accept it, you know. So, yeah, so he's ending with this last sentence. Therefore, until one attains the stage of Uttam Adhikar, the faithful and the sincere sadhak should remain extremely careful. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to achieve pure devotion, which ultimately bears the fruit of divine love. You know, so it's essential that the science of bhakti should be understood. And that's why Srila Prabhupada gave the Nectar of Devotion. He gave the summary study, which details especially the first wave. There are 4 waves. And especially the first wave. He gave more explanation of that. Because that's dealing with sadhana bhakti. And it's also mentioned there, Raganuga sadhana bhakti. But not in the words Raganuga. So I feel that Srila Prabhupada was trying to avoid putting a spotlight on Raganuga, because these novice devotees were not at all ready yet to hear about that. And they should be encouraged that exactly what they're doing, chant 16 rounds, follow the 4 regular principles, you go back to Godhead at the end of this life. Right? Prabhupada many times told like that. But there's much more, much more specific information that has to be understood. So, by studying these books, what we're doing right now is also we are clarifying everything. Everything is becoming more clear. Otherwise it's hazy. There's not a proper conception. But if someone is always trying to read and associate with exalted Vaishnavas who have those moods, and it can also be in the form of what they've given in written form, like the Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, all these. This is the process, to hear from them and get a clear conception, and then apply that in one's own bhajan life.
So would you consider that sufficient?
Do I what?
Would you consider that sufficient?
For what?
Let's say there's a society or group of devotees or an individual who's not having physical association. Would you consider names and tapes?
Okay, good question. The fact is that even Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Raj has written a book titled Shastriya Sadhusanga. He says, of such personalities who are there living amongst the Vaishnavas, especially like in a Gaudiya Mat, they're living in the Mat. Brahmacharis and very new people they can all associate with. They can be gradually elevated. So, in the absence of such personalities being present, then one can accept their presence in the form of the Shastras that they have given. These are extremely important and essential. But if somebody says, well, I'll just read all these things, I'm just going to read this because I'm associating with him. Or they may specify only the books of such and such acharya I'll read, like that. But Srila Prabhupada, he wanted the full picture. He wanted all the books of the acharyas, the Rupanuga acharyas, that they should all be translated gradually. And now they're becoming translated. Such a level is very, very rare. But they're there, here, there. They can come in the form of a very simple bhakta. And there are many examples, especially of the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, even householder disciples and so forth. The time is correct for that sadhak to meet and to hear from such exalted Vaishnavas. But to fully take advantage of their association, one has to become advanced himself. Just like, for example, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, I was reading the other day about, forget where I was reading it, probably on Facebook. There's a description of overview of his life. Oh no, it was in his book that I have, Sri Radha, this book. And at the end of the book there was a very nice description. And how diligently he practiced bhakti. You know, our god brother, Bhagavad Prabhu, who is Bhagavad Maharaj, actually at the Gaura Govinda Maharaj's going there to Bhubaneswar to fulfill Prabhupada's order, because Prabhupada ordered him in 1975 when he received sannyas from Prabhupada. I was actually there at that festival, but I didn't know who he was at that time. It just Tripurari Maharaj also took sannyas, two of them. And so, but Gaura Govinda Maharaj was given the order by Srila Prabhupada to go to Bhubaneswar and to accomplish 3 tasks. And one of them was to build this big temple. Another was to translate all of his books into Odia. And I forget what the third one was offhand. So anyway, but Gaura Govinda Maharaj went there with literally no help at all. He had even asked Prabhupada of him years ago, where he's telling the story of when Prabhupada said, no, you go alone and you do it. So he actually did. And he went to the place where it was like very dangerous to be there. There were like even wild bears and tigers, what to speak of dacoits and everything else. It was on the outskirts of the city at that time. And there was a piece of land that was donated to Srila Prabhupada. So on that piece of land, Gaura Govinda Maharaj, with his own hands, built a bamboo mud hut, which he began to stay in. You know, and he used to, sometimes he would walk 20 kilometers in a day, just to meet different persons, to collect some donation from them, to preach to them. There's one devotee, Sachinanda, who ended up being his first disciple to receive initiation from him. He's left his body now. He's the one that established in Bhubaneswar on the outskirts that place, what's it called? On the river where Nityananda Prabhu broke. So, but he used to ride Gaura Govinda Maharaj on the back of his bicycle to go into the town. And at the very beginning, Gaura Govinda Maharaj, he would go to the Ananta Vasudev temple. You know that temple? Right on the banks of... And, huh? Yeah, Bindu Sarovara. And he said, well, in those days, they actually gave free prasadam, mahaprasad, to sadhus. You know, now they don't. But in those days they did, and that would be his one and only meal that he would take. So gradually over time, you know, a little bit, he received different people coming to him, and gradually, that project began to slowly manifest. Now, that was 1975. So in 1977, I met Bhagwat Prabhu in the temple room of the ISKCON Krishna Balaram Mandir. It was at the time when Srila Prabhupada was in his final days, and Bhagwat had just arrived from Bhubaneswar. I was already there for some time. And so I greeted him. We didn't know each other that well, but we knew each other somewhat. And then he informed me, he said, you know, I've been living in Bhubaneswar, in Orissa, near to Jagannath Puri. And I've been living with our godbrother, Gaura Govinda Swami, on the, you know, in this rustic situation, very simple. And I've been there for about a year. And I'm telling you, in that close association with our godbrother, I really think that he is a pure devotee. When we use that term in those days, don't forget, we meant by pure devotee someone that is like Srila Prabhupada, on this highly exalted, fully realized. Really? Really? You think he's a pure devotee? He says, yeah, I've been watching him, how he does his sadhana, how he does his eating, how he does his preaching, everything I've been watching. And I really think he's a pure devotee. He says, wow, wow. So that put in my mind some like impression that later on proved to be a fact. After another 20 years later, you know. But in that article about Gaura Govinda Maharaj that I was reading, it was describing how he was born in such a family. That was like hundreds of generations. Hundreds of generations. And they're, you know, pujaris and musicians in particular, kirtaniyas. So he's born and brought up in such a circumstance, in such a line, so from birth, he's Vaishnava. And, you know, Gaura Govinda Maharaj exhibited specific qualities right from the very beginning of his life. But he, because he was given the order that he should marry, I think he was one of the eldest sons, if not the eldest. So he accepted that order, and then he went into Grihastha ashram. But every day he would have Srimad Bhagavatam reading, and as they were growing, he would have Srimad Bhagavatam. He came to the conclusion that now he must leave home, and he must search for his guru. So he left on a pilgrimage, all by himself, traveling all over India, north, south, east, west, to find his guru. He went all the way to the Himalayan mountains also. But finally, after all that, then he came to Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, he received a magazine, which was called Back to Godhead magazine. At that time, in 1974. You know, and I've heard, like you see the sadhus on the side of the road, you know, here and there, and, you know, unshaven, hair grown out. But he was wearing some saffron cloth. And he had accepted the name Gaur Gopal. I think he accepted that name on his pilgrimage. Being with Prabhupada at that time in Vrindavan, in Prabhupada's room where it currently is, that they kind of built right toward the beginning, so Prabhupada would have his place to stay when he would come and visit. And, you know, generally there was a devotee who was guarding the door. Not just anybody can just walk in, you know. So, Gaura Govinda Maharaj, they looked at him like as if he's just some kind of strange sadhu. But somehow he was given entrance into Srila Prabhupada's room, because he showed them the Back to Godhead magazine, and he said, I've come to meet this person. So, and when he entered the room, Srila Prabhupada was sitting there. Srila Prabhupada saw him. He was speaking with some people. And then Prabhupada looked at him after he paid his obeisances, and he said, have you taken sannyas? Because it appeared that he was a renunciate in the renounced order. And then he said, no, I haven't. And then Prabhupada said, I will give you sannyas. Right from the first moment. And then later on, some of the devotees approached Prabhupada because he began to start to live there. And soon after, he received initiation and his name, Gaura Govinda. And, you know, when he was recommended for sannyas, then some of the devotees objected. They said, he's just a new man, Prabhupada. He says, no, you are new men. He's a devotee from birth, you know. So like this, I'm just speaking about this because of what we've just heard from Bhaktivinoda Thakur regarding the qualifications. Gaur Govinda Maharaj, you know what he used to do? Every single Ekadasi, he would chant the entire Bhagavad Gita. And every day, he would chant one chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And his accepting Srila Prabhupada's instruction to translate his books into Oriya, he began to live there at Krishna Balaram Mandir, and he was accepted into publications. Prabhupada gave, which was yes, 3 temples were built. The one in Bhubaneswar, and the one in his birthplace, because he had his Gopal deity that he always worshipped from childhood. And the temple was built there for that Gopal deity. And then, forgetting, another temple was built. But the big temple, Krishna Balaram temple, it has become what Prabhupada predicted. It will become one of our largest and most successful temples in our whole worldwide society. So, but he was a pure devotee. And after Prabhupada's departure from the world, he exhibited for a period of about 4 months solid that nobody could understand what's going on with him. There's one of our godbrothers, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada named Lagudi Das, and he wrote a small booklet because he was the one that was living in the same room in Mayapur with Gaur Govinda Maharaj, and he described in detail what went on during that entire 4 months. And you know, he was like in fainted condition, unconscious at times. And no one, they brought many different doctors to examine him. Nobody could understand. But then Srila Kinchana Krishnadas Babaji into the room, and the Gaur Govinda Maharaj was lying there, and then Kinchana Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj examined his symptoms and also his breath with a piece of light piece of Bhav. So he's the one that confirmed. And when Gaur Govinda Maharaj was nearing the end and beginning to to surface again, then at that time, Lagudi describes, he was looking at his hands. And he was saying, what is this? Because he was in his internal mood, in his siddha deha. And now he's again in the body. So, I like to use him as an example of someone who truly was on the stage of Bhav amongst Srila Prabhupada's disciples. And that is proven by the Katha that he gave, by how he lived, by his realizations, by his absolutely dedicated service to Srila Prabhupada. I get a quotation every day in my Gmail from him. I've had this for the last 2-3 years. Somebody suddenly signed me up for that. But it's called Quote of the Day. And it's a short quote from his different lectures. It tells which lecture, where the lecture was given, like that, what year. So every single time I read that, it's just perfect. Perfect. Doesn't matter which particular point that he's making, But he does it so, so the main thing is that Bhakti Vinod Thakur is expressing to us is that there's a formula that has to be followed. There's a formula which includes various ingredients for a sadhak to become successful, and gradually that sadhak can come to the higher stages of bhakti. And gradually that sadhu can, through the association of the Uttama Adhikari Vaishnavas, he can, his lobha, his greed can dawn in his heart. That happens, Uttama Bhakti, and become an Uttam Adhikari one day, attain the stage of bhakti. Alright, so now we're complete our class. This is the Tuesday class, so there's no more for the next couple of weeks actually, except for Ekadasi, which is next Monday. But for the next 2 weeks there's no appearance or disappearance days on the calendar. And so we'll have class on Thursday, then on Sunday, then again on Tuesday and Thursday and Sunday of the next week. The 30th of May, and the next class is on Sunday, the 2nd of June. Class after that, on that day, we have to do Ekadasi Param in the morning time, usual time. And there's a disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati whose appearance day. Never heard of Bhakti Sudhir Yachak Maharaj. And then the next class on the 6th of June, Thursday, is the Amavasya day, with no appearance or disappearance. Then all the way through the next week until the end of that week. Then on the 16th Sunday, there's all Ganga. It's a big Ganga day. On Sunday the 16th of June, it's Ganga Dashahara, Ganga Puja, Ganga Devi, and Ganga Mata Goswami. Her appearance day of both Ganga Devi and Ganga Mata Goswami. That's interesting. Ganga Devi is the daughter of Lord Nityananda. And Ganga Mata Goswami, we know her story. But they both appeared on the same day. So that's the Ganga Day, on the 16th Sunday. And then the next week after that, from the so the next week after, and then on the Thursday is Srila Bhakti Jivan Janardhan, Srimad Bhakti Acharya Maharaj. There's a few, then the Snana Yatra is on Saturday. Snana Yatra, and that's Purnima Day also, is on Saturday, the 22nd. Also the disappearance days of Sri Mukunda Datta and Sri Sridhar Pandit. So we can, because the next day, the Sunday, is the disappearance day of Sri Shyamananda Prabhu. So we can decide if we want to switch it from Sunday to Saturday. And then the final week of June, that Tuesday is Ambuvachi ends, but I don't know what Ambuvachi is. And then on the Thursday and Sunday there's no other appearance or disappearance day. Then we come into July. and July is a big month. July has the Ratha Yatra. Oh, there was a Snana Yatra also, which I forgot to mention 2 weeks before that. Yeah, Snana Yatra on Saturday. So probably be good to switch it from the Sunday to the Saturday, 22nd of June. So in July, then Ratha Yatra is on a Sunday. And of course it's the disappearance day of both Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami and Sri Shivananda Singh. So, and the Gundicha Marjan is on the Saturday before that, and the Friday before that is Sri Gadadhar Pandit's disappearance day. And who else appeared on Gadadhar Pandit's disappearance day? So we can decide, probably we can switch it from Thursday to Friday and then to Sunday. We'll see. Then, of course, Ratha Yatra season and the Hera Panchami festival and the return Ratha Yatra of Lord Jagannath. Vigyan Bharati Maharaj Shayana Ekadasi. So his appearance day is on the 17th, which falls on a Wednesday. We'll be invited here on that day to go to his samadhi by Deva arranges that. On the 21st, which is a Sunday. And it's also the disappearance day of Sri Sanatana Goswami. So this is the Vyas Puja day of Veda Vyas. It's his appearance day. And it is Guru Purnima. And it is the first month of Chatur Masya. Say to your tomatoes, say goodbye to your eggplants, say goodbye to honey for 4 months. Say goodbye to what else? The what? Oh yeah, the first month of Chaturmasya. First month of Chaturmasya, no shak, no green leafies. Yeah. I was reading yesterday, just after what I described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, then Mahaprabhu went to Shantipur. And in Shantipur there was for Mother Sachi to be brought. She was brought. And there's a whole description there how Mahaprabhu glorifies her for like 3 pages. He glorifies Mother Sachi. He's in ecstasy and he's weeping and Mother Sachi, all overwhelmed by praying for your son. And so then she went into the kitchen and began cooking. And it's describing there that every vegetable that was provided to her, she cooked that vegetable in 20 days. 20 different types of shak was brought to her, and she cooked 20 different types of shak. And then it describes how she was watching Mahaprabhu eating this shak and the other vegetables. But as Mahaprabhu was eating each type of shak, he would eat some shak, then he'd go to the other vegetables, then he'd come back to shak again. And he was relishing this shak, and each shak had a name, particular type of shak. And Mahaprabhu began to glorify each individual type of shak. So if it's stuffs by Gauranga Mahaprabhu, it is shak. He cooked. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hari. Jaya Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Vrindai Tulsidevai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Satyavacharyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sarva Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai.